Welcome back. This is hour number 2. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell, and we've got a great show lined up this hour. We're going to talk a lot about credit and debt and stuff like that, and equity rich, how equity rich the Tampa is, an article on that.
We're going to remind our audience that we are a Money Talk show.
We are Money Talk 1010, and the mission of our show here on Tampa Home Talk, just in case you haven't heard it in a long, long while, it's to help you keep and maintain great credit, live within your means, build wealth, and anything in and around the real estate space. And so this show is really absolutely dedicated to our mission of our show, which we haven't had in a long while because we highlight a lot of different guests and people and other things for the home. But without further ado, I'd love to introduce our next guest for the hour, Mr. Tavares Vickers, and he is with UCES Protection Plan. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. That is correct.
All right. So let's talk about what is UCES Protection Plan? Like, what is that?
Basically, what we are is a credit education service program. What our credit attorneys do is help individuals with less than perfect credit build that credit back, get back on the right track. Through this, what we do is we offer a number of different services: credit builder, financial lockbox, smart credit. These are different programs and tools that can be used to help you when it comes down to your credit.
So tell me a little bit about your company. So you guys work with all attorneys?
Yes, basically it's an attorney group. What my company does basically is we help the products reach individuals who may not know about credit, may not know necessarily how to build credit and what it actually takes to maintain good credit.
Got it. So the interesting thing about this, and I want to talk about it because credit repair has a bad rap, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so this is not really credit repair, is it? Is it more like credit cleanup, or let's talk about that in depth. So somebody comes to you, let's say they have got just a jacked up credit report, right? There's collections all over it. A lot of them are medical. They had, a repossession, a couple credit cards, bad divorce, dog died, the whole bit. And now they're like, okay, how do I fix this mess? Where do I start? What do you guys do with that? Where do you begin?
Basically, what the credit attorneys are going to do, they're going to pull your credit reports and analyze it, see what's on there. What they do differently, I could say from what I've seen, is they basically they don't pick and choose what they're going to remove from your credit report. So if you have bankruptcies, late payments, repossessions, they're basically going to go after those things that's weighing down your credit score. And through our program, which is normally a 90-day window, so they do this over 3 months. So if you're looking to make a change and relatively fast, I've seen individuals' credit scores go up between 100 and 180 points over a 90-day time frame. Of course, everybody's credit is different, but what they do and what a lot of individuals don't understand is that these credit bureaus are independent companies. So basically, they're contesting that. And if the the collectors don't respond, if the collectors don't come back to the table, basically those items will be removed.
So, because they have a certain amount of time to respond, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Like legally. Here's the thing I'll warn you from like the mortgage and real estate perspective side of it is you can't have any pending disputes when you go to get a mortgage. So that will hold you up. If Sarah Cricky was here, she would let you know that. So if you've got some things on your credit and you're looking to do this, you really need to get this process started before, even though you're saying a 90-day window. Does it take longer than that?
Yeah,
some instances?
It just depends on an individual's credit. Over the course of 90 days, a couple medical bills might have came off your credit report, but a couple other items may have not. That may require another route that the credit attorneys may have to take.
So are you guys negotiating with creditors to do a pay for delete? Like for them to basically pay a certain amount, they settle it and they remove it, or are you just trying to get it off altogether?
We're just removing it altogether, basically.
Okay.
We're not negotiating, doing a pay for delete. Now, the thing is, you on our program, you do get to consult with the credit attorneys and they will guide you. One thing we definitely recommend everyone while on the service, you definitely want to continue to pay your bills.
Right. You're doing damage control here.
Yeah.
Don't continue to burn the house down behind you.
Exactly. I've experienced spoke with a lot of individuals who, felt as though once they get on the program that they don't have to continue paying their bills, and that's a big no.
I think you got to start with the right mindset, right?
Yes.
Before you help anyone with credit cleanup, you got to start with the fact that you probably need a budget. Let's start there. And what does that mean to live on the dirty B word, right? You have
Yes.
to live within your means.
And see, that's another great thing about our program is that we actually offer, like I said, we have the financial log box, we have the credit builder, we have these different tools and systems to help you when it comes down to budgeting. So if you don't understand what that looks like, it's a simple plug and play system where you can plug it in a matter of minutes, and it's going to break down that information for you and how you should actually pay those bills.
So I'm going to ask the obvious question that I know some of our listeners probably have already texted is, how is it legal to remove stuff on the credit repair? Like if you truly had a repossession, right? They just repoed your car a year ago or whatever, say COVID happened and you got laid off and you couldn't pay your car, well, they repoed it. How are you getting that off?
Well, there is true debt. There's things that, like, for instance, if you have student loans, let's give an example like that. Those student loans are truly yours. The information that's provided to the bureaus is coming from one party. So basically what the credit attorneys are doing is making sure that party has that correct information. They can prove that you have that debt. If they don't prove that you have that debt, then it's going to be removed.
So let's say they come back and they say, no, we can prove you had a repossession. We picked it up at this day and time. You didn't pay for it. Then what?
Basically, I'm sorry, repeat that one more time.
So like we use the example of a repossession,
Okay,
right? Somebody
yes.
last year during COVID, so they got their car repossessed, and that's on the credit report. They've hired you. They're trying to get it off. You guys have responded to the creditor. The creditor responds and says, nope, you've actually had the repossession. We can prove it. Here's what it is. We're not taking it off. Then what?
That's a different situation. That's a true debt. They can go back to the table and try again, but it just depends.
So at that point, could you guys negotiate a pay for delete?
Yes. At that point in time, that's the one-off that you're going to consult with the credit attorneys about.
Okay.
Yes. That's when you would actually go in there and actually contact them. And
So tell me about your attorneys. I imagine they're probably very well versed in the Fair Credit Reporting Act. They would know that part of the law in and out, right?
Of course, that's basically how they're leveraging your rights and working to remove these things is under the Fair Reporting Credit Act.
I know the biggest thing they're probably hoping is that they don't respond back, and there's a lot of technicalities which the attorneys are really good at, like if it's not reported exactly correct, or if
Exactly.
there's any errors in it, they have to remove it, right?
Exactly.
So what about with the older debt? So we talk about collections, how collections actually, they have a statute, they have a window, right?
Yes,
where they're
normally.
supposed to fall off, and then you hear all the time about these penny collectors, right, where they sell the old debt for pennies on the dollar, and then they try to re-report something that's like 10 or 15 years old. Do you get that?
Basically, of course, when it comes down to it's a 7-year window, and after that time frame, the collectors can put it back on your credit. It just depends if they choose to respond and send that information back out there. So
But after 7 years, they can refresh that old debt and re-report it again?
They can actually refresh it and put it back on your credit report. A lot of individuals don't know that, but that is a possibility.
I thought when it's an old debt, after a certain amount of time, they couldn't re-report it.
No, they can actually pick it back up.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I really thought they couldn't. Anyway, I'm not the expert in this field by any means, so why don't you share a couple of your real life stories with some people that you guys have helped?
Help many individuals. Like I said, everyone's situation is different, but as far as individuals with late payments, student loan late payments, I've actually experienced a client who've had their student loans come out of deferment, hit the report as late, and the credit attorneys worked and had that removed. So I've seen student loans. I've seen child support payment history been removed as well.
Do your attorneys sue the creditors if they've reported wrong information? Do they do that? Or they're just helping with the cleanup?
They basically help with the cleanup, and like I said, anything else outside of that cleanup is a one-off conversation that you get to have with the credit attorney. That way, they can tell you, how to go to that next step
And
or
what's
what needs to go.
the cost for your service? How long does it take? Is there a contract?
There's no contracts. Our program starts off at $189. That's the
Is that monthly?
that's the initial enrollment.
Okay.
After that, it's $89 a month.
With no minimum months?
For no, well, we want you on the
90.
program for
All
90
right,
days.
We got to roll to a break. Stick around. We'll give out the number when we come back.
Welcome home. Leo Kane here with Beryl Engineering and Inspection, bringing you the breaking news of segment 2. I also need to reference our off-air number since Katrina rolled right into the break. We're at 813-377-2775. That's 813-377-2775. If you need to get a hold of UCES Protection Plan, just text UCES and we'll get you hooked right up. Now I'd like to jump to an old friend of mine, Miles Stuber. Are you there, Miles?
I am. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I know you're on our show on a regular basis, but I still need to ask the background questions. Can you remind us, what is Stuber Financial?
Super Financial is a student firm that focuses strictly on student debt. It was quite interesting listening to the last guest because he handles a little bit about what we do as far as the credit, but we don't deal with credit for our clients. What we do is we get them before there's negative credit put on their report. And what we do is we restructure student debt for our clients. We restructured over $40 million worth of student debt for our clients, and we are nationally recognized experts in the loan forgiveness programs, the federal loan forgiveness programs. So what we do is we do a consultation with our clients. We do a analysis, and then what we do is we come up with a plan.
His wife makes the teas.
So I was just curious, speaking of student loan forgiveness, it's a federal program. I was wondering, with the new administration, has that program been expanded? Has it changed substantially since we have the new president? Does the president even matter when it comes to that sort of thing?
Well, no, the president doesn't matter at all because this the student loan forgiveness, and the one that I really put my clients into is the public service loan forgiveness program. That was written into law. It's a law by George W. Bush in 2007. So therefore, it's a law. So therefore, it doesn't change with administrations. It's a law on the books. And the thing is, the government really doesn't want a lot of people to know about it because there's $1.7 trillion worth of debt. They don't want to take a haircut on all that money, so therefore this is a very closely held secret.
So you can help people with their student loans using a secret, basically.
Using the laws on the book that they just don't publicize.
Okay. So what is the criteria for student loan forgiveness? I know it's different if you're based on employment and time and stuff. Do you want to run us through what this criteria for
Yes, thanks. Great question. The covenant for the student loan forgiveness program is you have to be a city, state, or federal worker, or you volunteer at a 501c3. If you do any of the above, you qualify. Now, the time horizon is 120 qualified payments. So when we restructure the debt, we put you into an income-based repayment program. During the Obama administration, they changed the criteria for paying debt. Before that, it was you borrow X amount of money, you pay back X amount of money. Now it's you borrow X amount of money and you pay back what you can afford to pay back based on your income. And it's scrubbed against the IRS, so therefore there's no way you could cheat. But the IRS does have a calculation on how much you would pay based on your income. You do 120, that's 10 years of those, and then the government forgives whatever the balance is.
So
you don't have to pay taxes.
So does it matter, 501c3 is a nonprofit, does it matter what nonprofit you volunteer for as long as you're just volunteering? And is it like full-time employment? Or is this like, I just...
You have to volunteer 30 hours a week.
Okay, so basically you have to volunteer almost full-time for 10 years for 501c3.
Some of these student loans, it's worth it. It's like a second job, but to make that payment would be that amount.
Yeah, so you have to...
What about you? Do you still have student loan debt, Leo?
If you have $100,000 worth of debt, and you're going to, at the end of the 10-year period, you're going to only pay like $40,000, and the government's going to pick up $60,000. That's pennies on the dollar.
That is... And to answer your question,
You
Katrina...
hang out with the aquarium, I'm just saying.
I graduated valedictorian, and I applied for lots of scholarships, so I did...
Did you go to college debt free?
Pretty much.
I'm so proud of you, Leo. You are a smart cookie.
Well, yeah, that's the whole valedictorian part.
That's right. That's right.
So
We want to win at trivia. You're going Thursday, just so you know.
So I would ask how someone can apply for this program, but I think that we just hook them up with you, don't we, Miles?
Yes, you hook them up with us, and what we would do is we do a free loan analysis, and we'll be able to tell them exactly where they are, because most people know they have student debt, but they don't really know how much they owe. And what we do is we do an analysis, and we get precise about how much they owe, what type of repayment program they are in, because when your loan is sent over to a loan servicer, they get to pick whatever repayment program you go with. And obviously they're going to pick the highest repayment program because it's in their best interest. What most people don't know is that when you have a servicer, they really got to do what you tell them to do, but the servicers don't want you to know that. So therefore, we come in, we do a loan analysis, and then we say, okay, we want to put our client in this type of repayment program, and then we can perform all the way out to 120 payments and calculate how much you would pay over the life of the loan and how much the government will give.
Well, that's awesome. How long does this process, like let's just say someone texts relief to 813-377-2775. That's text the word relief to 813.
Like student loan relief.
377-2775. Let's say they've texted. We've partnered them up with you. You've started this pre-question. How long does this whole process take before they start the 10-year clock?
We would do the loan analysis. Once we would have a conversation, do a loan analysis. That's the first consultation. Then we present the loan analysis back to them. We show them the data. We show them the numbers of what they're paying now, what they would be paying once they're in the program, how much money they would be saving, and tell them which income-based repayment program they would be in. Once they sign off and say, let's go forward, from Alpha to Omega, the whole process could take a week if we really want to do it that fast.
Okay, awesome. And what's the cost? I'm trying to forgive my debt. Obviously, I don't have a lot of money. So what kind of cost am I coming out of pocket?
Some of these student loans, oh my gosh, are so expensive.
Yeah, I mean, you got doctors and lawyers with $200,000 in debt.
Our cost is a one-time payment of $750, and we strategically priced it right there. We've taken out all of the fat, because you can have the best product in the world, but if people can't afford it, it's totally useless. So we've made it affordable, and sometimes we even structure payments creatively, because different occupations are just not paid a lot. A lot of our clients are educators, and educators need the highest level of education, and on the average don't make a lot of money. So what we do is we restructure it. We'll go as far as doing $100 a month for 7 months for educators, simply because we value them and we know that there's a great need in that community.
Miles, I have a question. What happens if you have like a doctor or an attorney, especially some of these doctors, if they're going to specialize in stuff, they can come out with student loan debt that's over 6 figures. And my question is, what happens if they were to take a job at a nonprofit? Would that affect anything at all? Because, I mean, some of these nonprofits, I'm sure they would spend a lot of time there. Can they work at their employer and also volunteer some time, and can that be counted?
Absolutely. That is the perfect marriage. That's the perfect marriage. We would not advise our clients to leave their job. We would just, and here's the interesting thing.
Well, my thought, Miles, was someone like fresh out of med school, they've done their intern and they're looking to get their first paid job. That might not be a bad option if they've got a ton of student loan debt.
No, that would be an excellent option. And here's the other thing. We have a working relationship with a bunch of non-for-profits. So what we will do is we have a whole network where we can pair some of our clients up with some of the local non-for-profits.
Do you have some that need like doctors, like new young doctors?
Or lawyers.
Or attorneys?
There are non-for-profits that need everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, no, this is awesome. That's what I loved about
Yeah.
That's what I love about having you on the show segment, because not only do you offer a way to eliminate debt, you also offer a way to help new people find employment. This is just awesome. And that's why we like having you as a show partner.
Miles, if you could give a student loan tip of the week, what would it be?
The student loan tip of the week is get into the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. The Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program is one of the best vehicles the federal government has ever provided. Let us do a loan analysis and let us get you enrolled, so therefore this burdensome student debt can come off of your table and you can move on with your dreams.
I love it. Thanks so much for joining us, Miles. He's also our official show partner of Tampa Home Talk. If you're looking to get student loan forgiveness in order, highly recommend you connect with Miles. There's a bunch of other folks I know that he has helped with some crazy student loan debt. Maybe we'll share their stories the next time you're on the air, Miles, and maybe even have them on. Thanks so much for joining us today. Miles Suber with Suber's Financial. We'll be back right after this break. Stick around. You're welcome. Well, good morning.
No, welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
This is Tampa Home Talk.
Yes. And we're here with Dave Schramm.
Yeah, Dave Schramm.
He's with 740 plus credit score repair.
Right.
Okay, awesome. I love that number. That's a good number. Wait, that's not as good as an 820, right?
No.
That's
but
impossible almost.
It's the best interest rate on the mortgage lending, so that's why I named it that way.
Nice. 740 plus credit score repair. So you repair people's credits that are at 740?
I do debt elimination, and
Nice.
I get deletions off of all the credit reports forever.
Oh, can you tell us a little more about yourself? And
Yeah,
your
let's talk
company?
about this.
Yeah, let's get some history.
We had another credit person on a couple of segments ago, and not everybody's the same. So just curious about you guys and how you're different.
Sure. I started my credit knowledge as a mortgage loan officer and later a federal bank mortgage branch manager. I wrote a book, might have been the first book on how FICO scores work in 2001. That was marketed with radio shows across the country. Lectured as a FICO expert, blah, blah. But
So you've
mostly
probably
people
done this-
needed help.
You've probably done this for a long time, so I'm going to date myself because I came from the mortgage side too. And do you remember when credit scores did not exist? When they did not have credit scores, you'd have to look at the credit and rate it A, B, C, D. Do you remember those days?
I do. FICO scores were basically early 80s, and FHA mortgage lending used to not require FICO scores. Those were
Technically,
the
they
days I
still
was in.
Don't, but yeah.
Technically,
anyway.
the agency loans, the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac,
Yeah.
regular conventional lending, you don't need any credit technically.
I mean, the challenge is the lender overlays, right? Because they're the ones that want it. But anyway, we're
All right,
getting
let's
a little
get off the tech
topic.
talk.
Yeah. So talk about your 740 credit repair. How long have you been doing it? Tell us about the company. Tell us what you know that other people don't.
Okay, I started over 10 years ago, living in Los Angeles, but Chicago boy, so forgive the LA, and moved to the Clearwater area about a year and a half ago, right before COVID. Thank
Yes.
goodness.
We've had a lot of you guys here from COVID, after COVID, that's for sure.
And I say I love my governor here.
Yeah, your new governor.
So what's different? I absolutely get all bureau deletion forever, or I don't get paid.
How? How do you do that?
Oh, that's a guarantee.
It is a guarantee. How? Trade secret, but basically without disputing. There is no right to dispute accurately reported credit. That's the Credit Repair Organizations Act of 1987.
Okay.
2 sentences is all it takes to figure that out. But mostly I had to figure out when I got into the business how to get around that federal law. Hey, if I can't dispute, what do I do? So I realized that there is no law requiring a company to report to credit. Only that if they report to credit, it's got to be accurate.
Right.
Okay. And then I asked myself, how do I get companies to request deletion? And the first and easiest ones were the collection agencies, those companies collecting for Sprint, T-Mobile, medical collection accounts and stuff like that. But a lot of companies didn't do that pay for delete. So I had to figure out, how do I get these guys to delete? Mm-hmm. And so the processes and tactics were built around that. I had 2 rules. I could not lie and I could not deceive.
Okay.
Let's tell the truth.
Fair enough. Mm-hmm. Wow. So I'm still like, okay, how is he doing this?
Some of it, all right, so some of it's relationship.
Okay.
Okay. So there's a real common collection agency right here in Florida with 2 offices called ERC. They collect for the biggies, AT&T and Sprint and Comcast and Charter Spectrum. Okay, so they don't do a pay for delete. In the olden days, it was the 2 general managers at the 2 buildings up in northern of the state, and they would delete for me. So it was a relationship thing. And then 5.5 years ago, pay for delete essentially dried up pretty completely, because of pressure from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that sent a letter around, okay, that scared the crap out of the collection agencies and debt buyers. And also there was pressure from TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax, because it's in the contracts between the collection agencies and the reporting agencies, no pay for delete. And so these 2 pressures 5.5 years ago dried up the pay for delete. But I already had the processes and tactics to get the 3 bureau deletion out of the tough companies. So I didn't really suffer in my results.
So I guess, is it costing the customer money outside of what they pay you to clean up stuff on their bureau?
Well, I want the results to be permanent. Mm-hmm. So the debt is confronted. So if there's a Sprint collection account, Sprint is going to send that debt to probably 3 different collection agencies across that 7-year reporting period, because they know it's better than a judgment.
Right.
They send it to the new collection agency, they open up the new collection account that day, and the credit scores crash downward to that degree. So I don't want the Sprint, the T-Mobile, the Comcast, I don't want these companies sending it to collection agency after collection agency. I need permanent results.
Right.
Can't have somebody in escrow to close a home loan.
And then all of a sudden
and
it pops up.
And all of a sudden their credit scores crash 50 or 110 points.
Yeah, which can happen very easily with one of those reporting.
Right. So the debt gets settled up. We negotiate the discount, or if the person has already paid it, we'll simply get the 3 bureau deletion. So the deletions come in a variety of ways. Could be an email, could be a fax, could be a letter, could be a settlement agreement in a legal document. But basically, all of these deletions are something that your loan officer can use to knock it off of the credit reports in about 3 or 4 days, and the credit scores come back that much higher.
All right. So going back to that scenario I gave the other gentleman earlier, what happens if, say, after COVID, you lost your job and your car was repossessed, right? Let's go with that one. And this happened last year. They repossessed the car. Sometimes there's a balance when they go to resell it. What do you do with that? How do you handle that repossession?
Basically, there's the debt settlement component. So negotiate the debt down as far as possible. Every once in a while, someone's been sued. Ford Motor Credit, kind of famous for that. Mm-hmm. So deal with the debt, okay, but then there's the 3 bureau deletion, which is the hard part. And that is company by company. So there's a lawyer at Toyota Motor Credit that I've got very well trained. And and so we do what we do, and the lawyer at Toyota offers deletion in a legal settlement.
It's all about relationships. I wrote a whole book on it, so I'll have to give you one before you leave. But I definitely believe it's about relationships for sure. So how long is this process taking you to do?
It's credit report by credit report, right? So somebody can call me up and say, Dave, I'm in escrow, and my credit score has just crashed 97 points.
Right.
What do I do? So I got to know what the company is. So I get the credit report. Usually the mortgage loan officer or the client supplies it. I need to see the company name, basically, or they can tell me over the phone, okay, it's National Credit Adjusters, a debt buyer that has grown by leaps and bounds, more and more credit reports all the time, okay? Got a relationship over there with that lawyer, okay? So there was a case recently, just a few weeks ago. I completely wiped out the debt. I earn a percentage of that, so I'm motivated to do better.
Right.
And we got the all bureau deletion in 3 or 4 days. So the escrow was saved, and of course the loan officer was happy, and the realtor was happy, and the customer was happy.
I was going to ask you, like, how do you get paid? What is your fee? It sounds like it's a percentage, it's not a flat amount.
On the debt, so long as there's no judgment or lawsuit, like any debt settlement company, I earn $1 out of every $4 that the customer does not pay.
So if they have $1,000 collection,
and it's negotiated down $600,
okay,
then I earn a bonus of 1/4 of that, $150.
Okay.
And then separately, there's a deletion success only fee. Nothing up front, no monthly fee. Okay, just success only. I do the job and I get paid afterward. And the federal law actually requires that. So the deletion success only fee is assigned company by company by company, and also how many companies there are. So every separate credit report is quoted on its own.
So let me ask you an obvious question. You're dealing with people that have bad credit. Not always. Sometimes it's a one-off. But let's say it's a disaster zone of a credit report, and you're tackling that. That could take a little while. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of calls. That's a lot of relationships. How do you guarantee you're going to get paid? And I'm asking the question because credit worthiness, right? That's what banks lend on, because that's your ability and willingness to timely repay. So how do you, when you're dealing with that, guarantee that you're going to get paid?
I can't guarantee that I'm going to get paid.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
But I risk my income because I accept the case, because I believe sincerely that if they help me and my team, and if they cooperate with me and my team, we're going to make them happy. They're gonna get the mortgage loan. The credit scores are going to be up 70, 210 FICO points.
So you do all the work up front, and you don't collect a dime until you get results?
Not all up front.
Okay.
Okay, so the federal law basically says that you can get paid after the result. So if the company sends the deletion letter or this legal settlement offering to delete, okay, so that deletion success only fee is earned upon the deletion letter receipt or the offer of deletion in the legal document.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah.
You tracking with him, Leo?
The company has to say, we requested deletion at all agencies that we reported to in writing.
So with regards to this, I'm like cleaning up credit, what's legal and what isn't?
Oh, that's a loaded question if I ever heard one.
However you want to answer that.
You're right about that. I have a video on my website where it's titled, What's Legal and Illegal in Credit Repair. So I'm not an attorney at law, okay? And so I have my opinions about what the law states. The law states that you have the right, I'm going to quote, you have the right to dispute inaccurate credit on your credit reports.
Yeah. And there's a lot of inaccuracies out there, right? Like, I mean, how many things are reported 100% accurate?
Well, all right. And then the next sentence, however, neither you nor any credit repair company has the right to have accurate and current and verifiable information removed.
Okay. So going back to the repossession, if it's accurate, we're still getting it off?
That's going to be a forceful tactic.
Okay.
Oh,
At all of the auto lenders.
Fair enough.
It's force. The
Well-
lawyer has to agree. offer.
You've been doing this for how long? I think at least 5 minutes, right? Like how long?
Over a decade.
Okay. All right, Dave Schramm with 740 plus credit score repair, helping you rebuild your credit. If you got some issues and you want to connect with Dave, call or text our off-air number, 813-377-2775. Again, call or text 813-377-2775. We'll be right back.
Well, good morning. Welcome back. This is Leo Kane with Beryl Engineering and Inspection. I am going to throw in another inspection tip of the week for you. I know that last segment, we talked about, what did we talk about? Seawalls, right, Pat? We talked about seawalls. This time I want to talk more because we've been talking a lot about credit repair, student loan forgiveness, budgets, things of that nature. I want to talk a little bit about the difference between like a homeowner association and a regular homeowner when it comes to budgets. A homeowner association is going to have dues collected or money set aside for large projects like a re-roof, a building paint, a seawall replacement. When you're on the homeowner side of things, you don't have those quote-unquote dues. What you end up having is just these expenses that pop up. So what might be smart for homeowners is to treat their house like an HOA, where they're going to take money and set it aside, $50 a month, $100 a month, into different categories for painting and roofs. So when these large expenses pop up, they have the money sitting there. So treat your home like a mini HOA. Take the money for these large improvement projects, such as a re-roof or a paint or a seawall or these landscaping projects, and set some money aside each paycheck into that and pay yourself monthly, basically, into a separate bank account that's just set aside for these, what we call capital projects. So when these projects come up, you're actually able
Maintenance, so you don't have deferred maintenance.
Yeah, well, large deferred maintenance.
Yeah.
I mean, maintenance is like, oh, my wife flushed too much down the toilet, I got to call a plumber. That's maintenance. But these large projects that you know are every 5 years or every 15, 20 years, set the money aside, put it in a separate bank account, one that doesn't have monthly fees. And that way, when these large expenses pop up, you tap into your own reserve account rather than having to scramble and incur more debt. Because if you're on one of these programs from UCES or 740 credit score or Super Financial, if you're on one of these programs and they've got this forgiveness or they've got these plans in place, and you are now looking at, do I feed my family? Do I make this payment? Or do I keep the roof leak from happening? That's what we're trying to prevent. It's the whole approach to your house, right, Katrina?
So I'm going to throw you a curveball on that. What happens if you've been saving and prices have done what they have done in the last year where like the price of roofs have freaking quadrupled? What do you do about that?
Well, I'm glad you asked that because a lot of these roofing companies are partnered with third-party financial companies. Even Luxury Bath, who we had on the last hour, they do financing. They probably don't do in-house financing. It's third party.
Right.
So what ends up happening is, let's just say your roof's going to cost $10,000 and you've saved $6,000. Well, you give the roofer 5 of the 6, and then you get on a plan for the other 5. And if you put a large chunk of money down, getting that financing for this construction project is going to make it even easier. It's just when you try and get these, I want a roof with no money out of pocket, you end up in these hard money scenarios where instead of getting a rate that's 2+ prime or 3+ prime, you're looking at hard money, which is
crazy expensive.
10 to 12 to 15%. Yeah. So that this is trying to protect the listeners out there on how we can use an inspection tip to actually relate to the last hour of content.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think not enough homeowners, and this should be part of, if you ask me, this should be part of mandatory education process to where basically you're taught to save a budget for these items that will need to be replaced so that your home doesn't end up with a ton of deferred maintenance because those are really expensive big ticket items.
Yeah, no, I should say I would agree wholeheartedly, but you were agreeing with me, so now I'm agreeing with you, agreeing with me. which is awesome.
So let's talk about Tampa Bay outperforming the national home equity trend, shall we?
Not surprised at all with what we've been talking about.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting. There's been so many people that were upside down for so long. It's interesting. They're saying Tampa Bay, almost 35% of homes in this metro area were considered equity rich in the second quarter, and only 2.4% of homes were considered seriously underwater.
Well, that's just because if you have a home that's worth $100,000 and you paid $100,000 for it and it's all debt, but now your home's worth $130,000, you're gaining equity, and that's what's happening here. We're just gaining equity.
So I was talking yesterday, we were showing a property, and one of the ones we were by, the agent that has been shadowing with me, a newer agent, basically said, oh, I grew up right kind of down the street, like around there. And we're talking about like, because she doesn't own a home yet. And I said, yeah, the time value of money, and like eventually if Florida goes like California with regards to housing prices, you'll get priced out of the market. And so we started talking about it, and I said, look, I'll pull it up for you and I'll show you what I mean. So I pull up like the history of deeds, and in the 70s, that property she used to live in, she grew up in with her parents as a kid, changed hands for, I think it was 1977, and was around $14,500. And then in 1985, it changed hands for around, I think it was $18,000. And then we saw where they purchased it in, I think it was around, no, sorry, it was the 70s before, and then they purchased it in the 90s, I think the early 90s. And they bought it for around 48. And then we were looking where this property was just sold 2 years ago, and it sold for, I think like around 140, somewhere around there. And I said, the crazy part is that home today is probably now worth closer to 200, depending on what's in it and what they've improved.
It's just amazing. Like your retirement account, your savings account is your house. I mean, if you're not going to,
for a lot of people,
if you're not passing it on to your children, you sell it, and then that allows you to downsize. But the other thing I'm running into a lot is you're living in a house. It's too big. It's 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths. The kids are gone. You want to sell it. You want to downsize. But now you're running into a scenario where I can sell my huge house, and then I'm not going to even make enough money on that to buy a 1 or 2 bedroom condo. It's like, do I stay in my house that's too big, or do I take on debt to move into something smaller that's more right sized for me? That's a real dilemma right now.
Well, I mean, if they're selling the bigger house, they should have plenty of equity to pay cash for the next smaller place.
You would think that.
Yeah, I mean, not everyone does.
You would think that, especially if you want to downsize into a condo, and if you want to downsize into an elderly community.
Yeah. Even though, I mean, I'm looking at this whole thing, and if I had it to do all over again, Leo, my first 2 houses that I sold before the one I live in now, I absolutely would have kept them.
See, that's what I did. I was condo living for a while, and I just kept everything, and then I just started renting it out.
Well, you were the valedictorian. I was not.
I just lucked into it, because what would happen is I would move from my job, and I would have a piece of property, and I would have a roommate living there at the time. So I'm like, I'll just continue renting it to the roommate. So I became a
landlord by default.
Yeah.
Well, I talk about the 2-year millionaire plan. I mean, anybody can become a millionaire through real estate by doing this every 2-year move plan.
I thought that was by your book. That was your plan.
Well, you can do that too. Call or text our offer number. We're going to give one away. How about that? 813-377-2775. Call or text book to 813-377-2775, and I'll make sure you get a signed copy.
Selling through relationships?
Yep. Nice. Love where you live, or we'll fix it. Welcome home.